Terrific, thank you. All right, so this is Aaron McGarry,
Aaron,
Chairman
we
of the
are
Board of Finance. Thank you. This is Aaron McGarry, Chairman of the Board of Finance. And the first item on the agenda is call to order and roll call. And we'll have the record show that all 6 members of the Board of Finance are connected to this meeting. And I did want to share a quick message from the First Selectman. She says, Aaron, would you please remind people to remain on mute during the meeting, that those speaking must say their name prior to speaking during the entire meeting, as well as address if it's during citizens' comments, meaning to share their address during citizens' comments. And let everyone know the meeting is being audio and video recorded. All right. So I did want to share that from the First Selectman. So we'll roll into correspondence. Did we receive any correspondence since the last meeting? I don't recall.
I know we did. We received citizens' comment.
Oh yeah, and we'll read those under the citizens' comments section.
Okay.
But I don't believe we received anything from anyone else. If I'm wrong, just let me know. All right. So if we haven't received any correspondence, then we'll move on to citizens' comments. And I do have a submission that came through, just got to get my reading glasses on here. It came through the First Selectman's office on Thursday, April 23rd, 2:22 p.m. This comes to us from Jessica Bolte. Address is 1081 Riverside Drive in North Riverdale. Subject, budget comments, and the message is as follows. I again make a request for a second session of citizens' comments. The amount of time allowed for during these virtual meetings does not give citizens ample time to type in a question, and I've had several through the email program not come through. I would like to comment that the confusion the BOF seems to be having in regards to projects of the school, such as the air exchange system for the shop, was discussed during their presentation to you in March. It was also discussed in the budget breakout sessions, of which only Mr. Herbert attended all of them. It would behoove board members to take a more proactive approach and attend these type of meetings, or even delegate members, so that time is not continuously wasted on items that have been described and outlined twice now have to be done so again due to board members' lack of participation. It says, I also request that we stop using the COVID-19 as a cop-out for not properly funding either side of the budget. Every year we hear the constant complaining of residents about staff, either town or school, getting raises when their own have stayed stagnant. This is just more of the same, except now it's being used as a scapegoat for board members to use to justify denying an environmental liability with the salt shed, necessary bridge, road work, and equipment, as well as decimating our school programs. Board members need to step up and lead this town into the future. We absolutely cannot do that with a flat budget. As a resident whose family has been affected by COVID-19 in a reduction to one income, I'd rather see my town and school properly funded so that they can continue to provide the services needed rather than see programs decimated. Okay, looks like we have some other, the chat button is active right now. It says here, so this comes from Jeffrey Bolte, 1081 Riverside Drive. Can you post the meeting agendas in PDF format? A Word document can be edited. Then also coming to us from Brittany Charbonneau, 56 Juliet Ave. Just wanted to thank the school and all the administration for their great job with all of the great progress during this new norm. I'd be curious to know if the BOF agreed to citizens' comments on the end as well in the special meetings. It would be appreciated. Thank you. With COVID-19, of course. All right. Any other citizens' comments at this time? Any other citizens' comments? If
Aaron,
someone has a comment, they can go ahead. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Sean.
John Brissett, Whittemore Ave, Thompson. This is as much a question maybe for Amy. Every week we're talking about putting the budget forward without a vote, but I don't believe that it was mandated that there can't be a vote. I think it was just allowed that you don't have to have a vote. So I'm curious as to why the concession has already been made that we're not going to be able to have a referendum. I think, as I've said, at every citizen's comments, Board of Finance has to put together a responsible budget. I don't think this year should be any different from that standpoint. Put together a responsible budget that meets the needs of the town. I've said it year in and year out for 6 or 7 years now. I know we have, I think it's 60 days longer to get the budget passed, 90 days before the tax bills are due, which certainly gives us some time. So that's something that I'm curious if the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen are considering that. I would, like to see a responsible budget put together and put it to a vote. So that's it for today for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. Any other citizens' comments at this time?
Hi, Aaron, Justin Young, Fairway Drive.
Justin, what's the number?
12.
Address?
12 Fairway Drive.
Great, thank you, Justin. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I just want to, basically agree with Sean. I think it's important that in these times we let the people of the town have their vote when it comes to funding the services within their town. I think if the Board of Finance is going to recommend a zero budget increase, then I don't think it's worth wasting taxpayers' time and money to go that route. But I think if we are going to put forth a reasonable budget to fund the town and its programs that are necessary for the next year, then I believe that the Board of Finance should put together that reasonable budget and put it to the citizens for a vote. I think it only makes sense for that. That's all I have.
Thank you, Justin. Appreciate that. Any other citizens' comments? Any other citizens' comments?
I have something to say.
Go ahead, please. Name and address, please.
Cole Kadair, 368 Chase Road.
Great. Go ahead, Cole.
Okay, so the leadership team received an email saying that a $1.2 million cut was something that was being thought. So I have my thoughts on that. So I'm a junior at TMHS currently. I'm the corresponding secretary of the National Honor Society, one of the Board of Ed liaisons, the concert band assistant student conductor, the modern music student conductor. I'm on the high honor roll, and I have been on the high honor roll since I started as a freshman. Academics are something I take very seriously, but the constant threats to my education I take even more serious. Every single year I have gone to Turtle Lot. I've had to speak at a Board of Finance meeting protesting the constant cuts to the education in our town. With the cuts that the Board of Finance is proposing, I am scared that the arts will face serious cuts, if not cut altogether. With school being out, my music teacher, Mrs. Anderson, has taken every effort to make the classroom virtual. She's been at every Zoom meeting every day and has not once slacked in any part of a virtual meeting. Cutting the arts means cutting the job of Thompson's most dedicated teacher. I have been a part of the music department since I was a freshman, and I have felt at home in that space. Anderson goes above and beyond to make the music room an accepting, safe place for students at TMHS, and anyone will tell you that regardless of the classes they take. Furthermore, no class has given me more opportunities than the music department does. I have taken on leadership roles in both ensembles I am in, and I have been able to grow, not only as a person, but as a leader. These valuable leadership skills are not taught in a normal class, but they are essential to a music class. So I have the music standards with me too, and for music education, the standards are singing alone or with others, a varied repertoire of music, performing on instruments alone or with others, a varied repertoire of music, improvising melodies, composing and arranging music, reading and notating music, listening to, analyzing, describing music, evaluating music and performers, understanding relationships between music, and 9 is understanding music in relation to history and culture. Music is not just words or notes on paper, it is critical understanding. Music is the only subject in school that actively uses both sides of your brain. Why would you want to threaten something so vital to students? Modern music, to be specific, gives students a chance to be real-life musicians. It puts students out into the community also. Music is needed at many town events. Most of my classes consist of kids in my grade, but my music classes are a homogeneous mixture of students. You can go in as a freshman and become friends with a senior. The music department at Charlotte isn't just classes, it's a family. The arts provides a sense of belonging that so many kids at Charlotte each year look for. When I went to TMHS, I looked at every school and I chose TMHS purely because of our music department. I could have gone anywhere else, but I knew that the music department here is where I wanted to go, and that was purely because of the work put in by Kate Anderson. Do not sit on the Thompson Board of Finance and say that you're advocating for the town if you're ignoring so many people every year and continuing to threaten the education of the younger generations. Town leadership should do nothing but advocate for the education, period. Invest in your future. Not every kid wants to go to Killingley, not every kid wants to go to Ellis, and not every family can afford to send their kid to Marianapolis.
Cole, thank you so much for those comments. I appreciate that.
Aaron?
Go ahead, Amy.
Oops.
Oh, I wasn't sure if that was Amy.
No, it's Kathleen.
I just wanted, Kathleen,
Okay.
I wanted to read 2 comments that have come in on the chat button, and then I'll come over to you
Okay,
in just a moment.
certainly.
Okay. All right. So Jackie Heffernan, 11 Quadic Road, and her comment is, our children have lost enough in this horrible pandemic. I respectfully ask you to consider this carefully when you look to the education budget. And then the second comment that's come in just in the last few moments, this is from Brittany Charbonneau, 56 Juliet Ave. It says, I agree with the others. We must support the school and their arts. We need to support and build up our school and support funding our children's future. P.S. Cole, great job. I agree, Brittany. Cole, you did a great job. All right. So go ahead, Kathleen, please. And
Thank
if you
you.
could state your address, please.
Yeah, 122 Wilsonville Road. I would like to thank Cole and both Brittany and Jackie and everybody else here who is supporting the Board of Education's budget. It is important to foster our school department. We need to keep Thompson growing as a town. We are an aging town. We have been an aging demographically. We need to keep, if you want to keep Thompson thriving, you need to attract families, young families with children. We need to keep our school vibrant and thriving and alive. We need to keep supporting programs that we have instituted lately that brings our school up to a top-notch school, which attracts these kind of families to town. We don't have a lot of business in this town, but if you bring these families into town, the young professionals, a healthy school system will attract young professionals such as Justin and okay, Jeff and his wife. If you bring these people into town, you need a strong, supported school system. And by cutting the school system year after year after year, you can't grow a vital school system. You're just letting us get by on a shoestring. We need to invest in our school to attract young professionals to town that allows our town to grow. And with that, small businesses, the appropriate businesses for our town will follow them. We'll bring in the cafes, we'll bring in a small little grocery, the boutique grocery stores, we'll bring in the pharmacy, we'll bring in these small little businesses, and other businesses already here will thrive. So we need to support our school systems. We need to have the kids who leave to college to come back to our town. you know, rather than live someplace else. We need to have them come home. So I urge you, please do not cut our budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. In the last few moments, the chat button has received a few more comments. One comes from John M. Bear, 37 Buckley Hill Road. It says, amazing job, Cole. Then Brittany Charbonneau sent out something saying Kathleen spot on. Then Melinda Smith, she said, I'm always in awe of the professionalism of our TMHS students. Thank you, Cole. And then we've got something from Daniel Carlson, 3 Rachel Drive. I want to thank Cole for speaking and sharing his story. I want to thank the parents for speaking out. Public schools are the heartbeat of a community. We need to support our school and town. Any other citizens' comments at this time? If you have a comment, you can click on the chat button, or you can, I believe you can unmute yourself to speak, because some of the other folks have done that. They've been able to unmute themselves to let me know that they have a comment.
Aaron? Amy
Yes.
St. Amy St. 139 Riverside Drive, also first selectman for the town of Thompson. I guess going into this, I commend the fact that there are currently 84 or 83 people in attendance of this meeting. But these meetings have been going on for weeks. And what I want to tell everybody, one of the first statements I heard was that, oh, I've heard the Board of Finance is proposing X cut to the budget. This is all news to me. I don't know where those rumors are coming from, because as far as I know, the Board of Finance hasn't disclosed what cuts they made, because I don't think they've, and I'm speaking for you, but I don't believe you've made decisions. And they have a lot of difficult decisions, but the truth is, I trust this board. I'm a believer in education. I have 2 children that graduated from Turtelot, and I know that there's tough decisions they're going to have to make, but they're going to do the best for all the stakeholders in our community. And I just wanted to let the Board of Finance know that we're behind you, and we know that you're going to make the right decisions. And we thank you for all the time that you've put in to helping make decisions on this budget. And just to touch base on what Sean Brissett had asked me, it is my hope that we will go to referendum. But I won't delay. I won't let this budget delay month after month after month, because there will be, from the time the tax bills are sent out, there will be a 90-day deferment program. I'm going to go right up until the end is my plan. And I think the Board of Selectmen agrees. I'm only speaking for myself. The intent is that we're going to go as long as we can in the hopes that we can have a budget referendum. And I just wanted to reassure everyone that that was my plan and that's my intention.
Thank you, Amy. Any other citizens' comments at this time? If you have a comment, you can let us know on the chat button. If you're formulating a longer comment, you can send a quick note in the chat button saying, please hold on a second, I'm formulating a thought, and we'll wait for you. Like I said before, I believe you can unmute yourself to let me know that you have a comment, and I'll go ahead and let you speak. Okay, it looks like we just got something just came in. It's from Jessica Bolte, 1081 Riverside Drive. It says, in regards to where the cuts are, it's been said by several members they are working towards a flat budget. Okay. Any other citizens' comments at this time? Again, you can click the chat button, or you can unmute yourself and let me know you want to speak, and I'll recognize. Okay. It seems that we have no more comments at this time. Okay. I believe when we left off, when we finished last week, we were discussing the education budget. Pretty sure that's where we were. Is there anyone on the Board of Finance who has any specific questions or topics or issues they want to cover as it relates to the Board of Education budget or anywhere else for that matter? But I figured I would at least turn folks' attention towards the education budget because that's where we finished last time. Any thoughts, questions, issues that they want to discuss? Or any other part of the budget? Town, capital improvement plan, or education?
Aaron, Rhonda Rooney,
Go ahead,
Board of
Rhonda.
Finance. I just want to make a comment. I just want to say thank you for everybody attending the meeting today. It's nice to see everybody here, and it's really nice to hear your thoughts because we are 6 people making decisions, and I make mine based on the majority of the people in town, and there's 9,000 residents in town. So to see 84 people here is nice so that we can see everybody and hear your thoughts. So I do appreciate that. And Amy, I just want to appreciate your support, let you know that I appreciate your support to our board.
Jim Belvance, Board of Finance.
Go ahead, Jim.
I got a question. As far as the school budget, and I'm just using them as an example right now because it's basically an insurance issue for the whole town. So I'm not picking on anybody right now here. But it seems like a tremendous amount of the increase in the school's budget is based on insurances and health insurances and benefits. Am I right or wrong on that?
Who is best authorized to speak on that topic?
That would be me.
Go ahead,
So,
Melinda.
so we have contractual obligations for wages, and then we have a significant increase in our health insurance. Primarily, we had ventured into a consortium to reduce our health benefit rate, which we realized last year. This year, due to the high number of claims for the consortium overall, but in Thompson in particular, the rate increase was significant this year. And so that's why you see that increase. So there's 3 drivers in our budget. It is wages, it is healthcare increases, and special education out of district placement. Those are our 3 big drivers, and that is the reason that we asked for the 6.02 increase in our budget. We didn't ask for any additional monies for programming or additional staff. We want to maintain status quo. You know, last year when I came before you, we gave you, the Board of Ed presented a realistic budget, and yet we were reduced, and so now we're facing a deficit. I anticipate that with any kind of reductions and uncontrollable special ed costs, besides the unpredictability of re-entry into school next year, I am very concerned that if we have any kind of a flat budget or a reduction, we're going to walk into the school year like we did this year in deficit. So that's my comments.
Jim Belvance, Board of Finance.
Go ahead, Jim.
Melinda, this is, so what you're telling us right now is your increase in your budget versus last year is an increase of $1.125 million. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And what percentage of that is benefits and insurance? What percentage of that is that?
Bob, do you have that number?
The Jim, give me a chance to look that up, but personnel costs altogether, which includes salaries, employees, substitutes, coaches, life insurance, unemployment, Medicaid, and health. That's 3.8% of our budget increase of the 6.02. So more than half of it is the increase in personnel costs.
Thank you. Jim Bellavance, Board of Finance again. As far as benefits and insurances and stuff like that, I know corporate America is forcing their workforce to pick up more of the price tag every year. I know my son works for a Fortune 500 company, and the amount that he keeps having to contribute every year becomes higher and higher and higher, and these big corporations are not funding these things. And as far as I'm concerned, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a town employee or whatever, I just can't see the town picking up the tab for all of this. I mean, I just really believe the employees are going to have to pay a bigger amount of money.
May I interject? So this year we are negotiating 4 contracts. One that we settled with the administrators who did take good concessions on their healthcare insurance. The other 3 are in negotiations, and on the table are considerable reductions or considerable increases to our employees toward healthcare benefits. So those are under discussion, and our employees understand that. So I want to put that on the table, that our folks have been very realistic around that particular topic. And I know the one contract we did settle with the administrators, they did take concessions on that. So I think everyone understands what we're facing. Unfortunately, we weren't able to conclude those negotiations because of the COVID emergency, and until we get back into work, we can't conclude those contracts. But everybody has that mindset through the negotiations on both sides of the table.
Thank you.
Aaron?
Go ahead, Rhonda.
Rhonda Rooney, Board of Finance. Melinda, just a quick question. So based on the information that you just provided, if the unions were to go to put more on the employee for the health insurance, what percentage of that 1.2 million would go down? How much of a dollar amount are you really looking at that could potentially, you might not have to pay out? And then also a second question would be, the raises are contractual for the union members. Is this 3.8% including raises for non-union members as well, or just the union contractual members? And the same applies for the health insurance. I mean, are they getting the same deal as the union people, or do they have to pay a higher premium for their insurances, non-union?
So
Just to make sure everyone knows. Go ahead. I just wanted to make sure everyone knows that Melinda Smith is the superintendent of schools, because there's a lot of folks on the meeting, so I just wanted to make sure. Thanks.
Thank you, Lauren. The reality is we have very few non-union members working for the district. There's a handful. And basically they follow suit with the union depending on what classification they're in. So they basically follow suit with the union increases. Bob, do you have some responses to some of those questions Rhonda asked?
And Bob Jenkins is the school business manager, for those who don't know. Go ahead.
Thanks, Aaron. No, I've forgotten most of Rhonda's questions, but I'm sorry. The first one is that, and Melinda already answered it, was the discussion on non-union. We probably have maybe eight or nine, and as Melinda said, most of them follow a union contract. How much of that? Could you ask the questions again, Rhonda? I'm sorry, I was trying
Sure.
for something else. I was trying to.
No problem, Bob. I'm over 50 myself. I don't know if you are, but yeah, so we do
Oh, wicked
forget
over.
quite easily. But so understandable. But the main question that I really wanted answered would be if the 3 other negotiations, if they're looking at potentially putting a higher price tag out to the employees or the, you know, the union people, how much of a decrease is that in the budget approximately? Do you know?
Yes.
I was going to say, those 3 contracts are in the middle of a negotiation, so we really can't
Don't know.
say where we'd want to end up. Go ahead, Melinda, I'm sorry.
No, that's the correct answer. We don't know at this point. Obviously, we have a set of proposals on the table, and the union has a set of proposals, and we're still negotiating, and that's all confidential at this point because we haven't reached any kind of conclusion yet. So know that what I wanted you to be well aware of is that each bargaining unit recognizes the need to do something around healthcare, and we're negotiating that back and forth. And I will say it's been, they've been very reasonable to work with. We just haven't finished those contracts yet.
And just the information, the contracts that are going into next year, which are the teachers and the administrators, the teachers are spending, usually increases 1%. This is only a 0.5 point, but it's because their deductibles went up. So we've got an offset in the overall cost of the insurance because of their increases, their deductibles. The same thing with the administrators. The administrators all are on, and all the teachers are all on the high deductible plans. Same with the administrators are now all on the high deductible plan where they weren't all on it last year. And their percentage increase is flat over this year because they are picking up a larger cost of the deductibles themselves out of pocket. So it's hard to say, you know, to give you a clear definition between percentage points and increases because of the offset of the deductibles, whereas the union member is picking up more of the cost of the out-of-pocket than they had previously.
Bob, Rhonda Rooney, Board of Finance, or maybe Melinda, thank you for that insight that they're looking at the health insurance and it has become something they're discussing. That's good to know. So Bob or Melinda, whoever can answer this. So are they, and most people, just so you know, I am an insurance broker and most people have the highest deductible plans because that's all they can afford in the regular arena. But have they discussed possibly having, you know, the percentages changed as far as, you know, possibly paying 100% for the employee and then having the family be carved out so that the employee would be responsible for that, or put the kids on the you know, the families on the exchange or anything like that? Because that's a huge difference, and they still get the I know that, you know, just FYI, they would still get coverage possibly better for less money. A lot of those people could also potentially qualify for Husky. So it just shifts the payment for the health insurance onto another platform, basically.
So
has that been discussed at all?
So I can't publicly talk about negotiations, but I will say this: as we move toward, you know, having employees make concessions, you know, it's negotiations. If you've ever been, if you've ever negotiated a contract, you know, it's a give and take type of situation. And so we are doing the best we can to work toward that agreement. I will say that every bargaining unit that we've worked with, the healthcare seems to be the driver and the thing that we talk about most. So know that it is on everyone's mind and it is very important to both sides of the table. I'm not answering your question, but I want you to know that every possible concession, you know, obviously the Board of Ed is putting on the table to ask, and then it's always a give and take with negotiations. And so we're working toward it. And I think every time we negotiate a contract, the town, the Board of Ed certainly negotiates a contract that's in the best interest of the town.
Thank you, Melinda.
Additional questions from members of the Board of Finance?
Rob Mann, Board of Finance.
Go ahead, Rob.
Oh, I wasn't sure if I had myself muted or not.
No, you're good.
Do you ever go to mediation with any of these unions or negotiations? Does it ever go to that level, or no? It's always negotiated out.
So it does go. It does go to mediation. That happens. And then if mediation isn't, if the contract isn't resolved at mediation, it can go to binding arbitration. And it is more or less a crapshoot as to what's going to happen because it's binding, right? So the arbitrators then decide. So mediation's the place you want to go so that both sides are heard and hopefully come to a resolution there. However, if that doesn't work, the next step is binding arbitration. And honestly, I'd like to avoid that if we, under all costs, because no one walks away happy under binding arbitration. So yes, the answer is yes. When we come to an impasse that we can't fix, we do seek out a mediator. And very often it's resolved right there in mediation.
And are there deadlines on when these contracts have to be negotiated? I just find it odd that there's always some contracts that are settled before there's a budget. So it's just concerning for me. I'm sure it is for lots of other people. I'm in a union also, so just to be clear. But we've been working without a contract for, many, many months, sometimes years.
So that's the case in some of our, having to negotiate 4 contracts in one year is a bit overwhelming, to say the least. We're trying to stagger those. But the bottom line here is that we have been working on these 2 contracts for quite some time. And then another one just came online in March that we didn't even have our first meeting yet because then we closed. So everything's halted until we're able to have face-to-face meetings. So that's kind of where we're at. We're at a pause right now.
Thank you.
This is Steve Herbert with the Board of Finance. I did attend most of the, if not all the school budget workshops. One thing I did notice, I'll pass on to the other members, is that and I think it's been said before, is that the school budget is basically not really increasing. No new programs is coming in that we're trying to fund or that the school is trying to fund. It's the same staff level as before, no increases in personnel. So, I mean, there may be individuals that change, but the staff overall is the same. The other thing that impressed me about the school budget was the amount of effort that the school has taken to reduce costs. It's actually been, one of the things they worked on was to, I guess there's 2 parts of it, reduce costs or control costs and to obtain grants. And they had a long list of grants that they were able to obtain. They've done a great job of helping themselves as much as possible. So I think the school budget, again, having attended the workshops there, I've seen them, really work hard at trying to prepare the best budget they could, the most regional budget they could. No crazy programs, no increases here in terms of staff or programs. I think the school has done a good job in preparing a solid, reasonable, responsible budget. So I give them a lot of credit for doing that. Again, cost reduction was in their thinking, and I appreciate that coming from the corporate world. If you don't have cost reduction when you prepare a budget, you can miss some opportunities. But the school seemed to have that in mind when they did prepare the budget for this coming year. So I support the budget that they presented.
Any other questions from members of the Board of Finance on the school budget?
Yeah, Aaron, it's Rob Wurge, Board of Finance.
Go ahead, Rob Wurge.
It's more of a clarification for Bob on the numbers, because we heard some percentages, and I'd like to talking whole numbers if we can. So if the overall adjustment is 6% and 3.8% of that 6% is on salary and benefits for people, for employees, that's roughly $700,000. If I do the math right, Bob, I'm looking at 63% of the overall increase,
Well,
which would be 700,000 of the 1.1 million, plus or minus.
Plus or minus, yes. I mean, the cost of health insurance alone, Rob, was 455, 185.
Yep, I had 450 just back in napkin. So the balance between the 450 and the 700, that 250 would be other, like salary increases, et cetera.
The salary increases actually was a, for basic staff, was around 100. So that brings it to 560, 322, which is 4.09. And I'll give you the breakdown. Let me just, salaries, it was 99,793. Benefits, which includes life insurance, Medicare, FICA, severance, longevity, unemployment, workers' comp, health insurance, tuition reimbursement, attendance. Those went up, that went up 460,529. So those two added together is 563,22, which is an actual increase, because I've done it in a bunch of different ways out to get the numbers, but if just with all of the benefits and all of the salaries, the difference is 4.09%.
4.09%.
Yep.
Of the increase.
Yep. Of the total, yes. Of the 6.02. It's not 4% of the 6.02, it's 4% of the entire increase.
Right, which call it 2/3, 4 over 6.
Yep.
So 2/3 of $1 million, 2/3 of $1 million is like $700,000. So just for the sake of now, not to put you on the spot with the numbers, Bob, but
no, but you're not counting all those, just total employee costs. The rest of the stuff, there's professional technical, which is not part of salaries and benefits, property services, other purchase services, supplies, equipment, and other. And that gets you the 6.02.
Well, and the fact that when we budgeted for FY20, we had 16 students in out-of-district placement. We don't have 25 or 26, and that was reflected in the budget.
That was my next step, Melinda. Thank you. So we're not quite tying out on the number, but call it use Bob's number of 560. It's not material right now. Then you add the special ed adjustment, which was about 350. If you call it 550 and 350, that's 900,000 of the 1.1 million.
Mm-hmm.
So,
okay.
And that 900,000, we can't control the special ed numbers, and we have minimal control other than the outputs of the negotiations that we can't talk about around salary adjustments and benefit adjustments. So I just want to level set myself. We're talking roughly about 900,000 of the 1.1 million that's somewhat fixed or untouchable right now. I know you're touching it. I don't mean untouchable in that there's zero influence. But in terms of our control right now. Go ahead, Bob.
I was going to say, now, and the other part of that because you're not looking at the same breakdown as I am, is that our capital number that we talked about last week.
Yep, 226.
Was about 220, right?
Yep, that's correct.
Add that to the number that we just talked about.
Right, that gets you to 1.1.
Yep.
Okay, that was it, Aaron. I think it's easy to bucket and frame it and understand kind of the big drivers. And it feels like we've got the call it 563 on the salary and benefit piece of it, another 350 on special ed, and another, as Bob just highlighted, another 200 on or so, 220 on CapEx, and that about drives us to the 1.1 number.
You bet.
a lot of other puts and takes. There's a ton of line items. I get it. A lot of work went into that. So I'm not discounting all the small puts and takes that were important, but those are really kind of the heart and soul of the driver of the overall 6%.
Right.
Steve Herbert, Board of Finance. I think it goes without saying that if the capital ends up being on the quote town side, that would obviously reduce the school side requirement. So the net would be, if it went on the school side, it comes out this, went on the town side, it goes out of the school side of the equation.
I mean, this is Bob Gentis from, I'm Director of Finance. I'm sure you can't hear my head rattle when I'm nodding yes to you, Steve, but yes, that would be it.
Any other questions from Board of Finance members on this topic? Or comments?
Rhonda Rooney, Board of Finance. I just have one comment. That would still be part of the budget as a whole, so it's still there, regardless of which side it's on. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Any other questions or comments from Board of Finance members? Any member of the Board of Finance want to discuss any other area of the Board of Education budget? And any member of the Board of Finance want to discuss any area of the combined budget, town, capital improvement plan, education?
Jim Belvans, Board of Finance.
Go ahead, Jim.
Aaron, a couple of weeks ago, you had mentioned that you were thinking of just having Orla put up on the screen, with these different increases in where our mill rate's going to be. Are we at a point now where we want to at least just take a look at it, just to get some kind of an idea of where we're at? Just a suggestion. I'd, be interested to see what other people think about that.
Good idea, Jim. Orla, would you be able to put up on the screen the spreadsheet and get us to page 1 so we can see where we're at right now?
Aaron?
Go ahead, Rhonda.
Rhonda Rooney, Board of Finance. Yeah, if we could just put on there what it would be if it was flat versus what it would be with, obviously we've made no changes to the budget. So what it would be if we put out, the whole budget as is, what the change in mill rate would be. Thank you.
Rob Word.
Go ahead.
Board of Finance. It looks like Orla has it. She has it up. If I recall, Orla 24 was flat, 26.5 was as proposed. We're currently at 27.75, right?
Yeah, I believe 23.97 was flat, and we're at 24.47. Yes? Sorry, Aaron McGarry, Board of Finance.
Aaron, Rob Word, that's how I recall it too. It was slightly under 24, I think 23.97, as you said. And then the two other numbers are there.
Yep. That's
Yes,
right where we
sorry.
were.
This is Orla,
ahead,
Finance
Orla.
Director for the town. Yes, that is correct. I don't have it up on the screen. It's not in the book, but it is 23.97.
And so this screen that we're looking at, is this the one that's tagged starting mill rate with options, Orla?
No, but I can go to that now if you wish. That contains information that I emailed out last week.
Does that answer questions about what mill rate options look like versus
Yes, it
reduction
does.
options and things like that?
Yes, it does. Would you like me to bring that up?
Yes, thank you. Again, this is Aaron McGarry, Board of Finance. Go ahead, Orla.
Okay, there you go.
Okay.
Aaron?
Go ahead, Rhonda.
Rhonda Runa, Board of Finance. I just wanted to put this out there just to kind of, because we have so many people on the line. I know that these numbers are big numbers, so it's kind of hard, especially if it's your first time on the call, to kind of wrap your arms around a budget of this magnitude. And then when you add the mill rate in, it's even confusing for us. And it took me a long time to figure out, what does all this mean to me personally in my house with my taxes? So I just wanted to kind of express to you guys how it works. So if your house is valued at $250,000 or assessed, that's the assessed value that you're going to be taxed on. If everything remained the same, you're looking at 250,000 times 23.97 equals, you're looking at approximately $5,992 a year in taxes, 5,992. And then if the budget went out and we made no changes to it whatsoever, that same person, and again, this is just on your house taxes, not your auto taxes or anything else. I'm just looking at an average cost of an average house in town. And you multiply that by the new mill rate, which is where it's not on the screen right now. It's 27.75, I believe.
26.5, Rhonda, 26.5. Oh, 26.5.
26? Okay, 26.53. So 250 times 26.53. You're looking at $6,632 a year. So you're looking at an approximate tax increase. If your home was assessed at the assessed value was $250, your taxes would be going up approximately $700 a year. Also, for you guys on the line that are seeing this for the first time this year, whether you're aware of it or not, they did reassess the values of all the houses in town. So the average person's home went up approximately 16%. Some people's homes went up significantly more in value. For example, mine had gone up 43%. So if those of you that are on the call had an increase in the value of your home last year, you will also have an increase just because of that plus this. So that's kind of what we're working with, and we're trying to take in consideration with these budgets is how does it affect each and every person personally, or I can't speak for everybody on the board, but I speak for myself. How much is that going to take off their family's budget? So I just wanted to give you a little bit of perspective of the average numbers that we're looking at. Thank you.
Rob Mann, Board of Finance. Very well said, Rhonda. I think you did a great job with that. Yeah, that's the reason why you see the mill rate drop. So basically, it's not exactly true that if somebody's house, like that, I'm going to use Rhonda's as an example, that went up 40% in value, even if the mill rate was reduced for a flat budget to $23.97, she would probably still have a tax increase, even with that flat budget, because not every house went up in value the same.
My house taxes went up $800 because of the reassessment per year on a flat budget. So just letting people know. I know we get a real bad rap, us Board of Finance members. We try to put out a reasonable budget every year. And, you know, 1 year out of the 5 that I've been on the board, it actually passed first time out, which is what we would like to have happen. But unfortunately, that hasn't been the norm for the other 4 years, hence the reduction in the constant reduction in these budgets. So just to kind of give you a full picture of what it looks like from our point of view versus yours. So we hear everybody inside, outside the meeting, and we try to do the best job we can with what we have to work with. And this year it is extremely tough for me personally, simply because it's not going to be going out, or could potentially at this point not be going out for vote. So anyway, that's just the big picture. I just wanted to add that for everybody that's on the call. And again, we thank you for being on the call.
No, Rob Mann, Board of Finance. Now, Rhonda, now have you done that same formula with the 2650?
The formula I just did was using the 2397,
Okay.
which is the flat reduced mill rate times the 250, and then I didn't use it using last year's numbers. So it's actually, you know, the 250 is times 23.97, which is if we kept things flat. And then I did the 250 times the new mill rate if we just put it out as is with no changes. And that would, for an average house worth 250,000, it approximates to approximately, $700 a year, roughly, plus whatever increases they would have gotten due to the reassessment. So it could mean, you know, for most people, it's probably going to be, you know, about $100 a month increase in their mortgage payment, if you will. Some people more, some people slightly less.
Rob Wirch, Board of Finance. Aaron, can I have the floor?
Absolutely. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, Rhonda, I agree with Rob. Nice job framing that out. I just wanted to add and clarify that your particular scenario is above the average in terms of the reval. So that means even in a flat budget, even if the budget were passed at flat, you would still see an increase in that scenario. People that are at the average,
800,
yep. People that are at the average, meaning their revaluation went up at the average of everybody. If we went flat, they would be flat. That would be the true flat of zero. The reality is very few people are sitting right on the average. There's many people above the average and there's many people below the average. How far away you are from the average is going to drive the change that each individual would see. So for the folks that are the opposite of you, Rhonda, that have not seen the average increase, they saw a very, very minor increase on the reevaluation. A flat budget would be a tax burden decrease for them. So it's always hard talking about, working on the averages. And your example holds true. I just wanted to point out that there'll be folks that are on the other side of that average as well. So a lot to consider here.
Absolutely. And also, a lot of time, just to throw it out there too, even with the mill rate going down slightly, the auto insurances, the auto taxes will go down for a lot of people as well because those depreciated. So
that's a good point.
Aaron McGarry, Board of Finance, which means those reductions in auto taxes will be shifted over to property tax owners. Meaning real estate owners.
In some cases.
That's where it's going to have to come from. If you're generating less tax from automobiles, then you're going to make up more somewhere else. You have to.
Rob Mann, Board of Finance. Yeah, the grand list would have to take it somehow, and that would have to go onto the real estate.
This is Steve Herbert, Board of Finance. Rhonda, are you using 250,000 in your estimate as the assessed value or the market value? Because the assessed value is, I think, 7
Assessed,
market value.
assessed value. I'm pretending that's the assessed value. That's my
Oh, okay.
hypothetical. So technically the house
that's the one that's
might be about a $300,000 house, you know, roughly.
actually
Assessed at 250.
I've been more than that actually, but yeah. And so a $600 or $700 increase is what, 14 bucks a week?
It's about $700 a week, $700 a year. I didn't do the math times the week.
It's $14 a week. If you got hit that hard, it'd be $14 a week more in taxes.
Mm-hmm.
So, Aaron
That's
McGarry,
correct,
Board of
Steve.
Finance. Yeah, Aaron McGarry, Board of Finance. This page that we're looking at now is a page that I asked Orla to put together. And there's 3 columns. There's a blue one, and a yellow one, and a green one. Right now, I jotted my number down somewhere. Here we go. So the amount of increase in spend that this combined budget before us would ask for, the town, the capital improvement plan, and the education budget, the amount of increased spend from a tax standpoint year to year, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's 2.56 mils. And I know we did revaluation, so that moved the numbers around. But in a vacuum, it's proposing 2.56 more mils of tax spend year to year. 2.56 mils is a pretty substantial upward movement year to year, in my experience. I've been on the Board of Finance since 2010, and I've never seen that before. In fact, I've never seen anything even close to that year to year. And I certainly never saw it in a year when I'm looking at an article that came out in Forbes yesterday, and it says the Congressional Budget Office is forecasting that unemployment is likely to rise to 16% and then hold at levels of 10% through the end of 2021. I did a quick look of the Department of Labor statistics to see what the unemployment rate has been over the last 75 or so years, and I can tell you that the highest point of unemployment during the Great Recession was about 10%. About 10%. And you'd have to go back to the 1930s to see an unemployment rate of 16% or higher. So I've been on the Board of Finance since 2010. I have never seen a 2.56 mil increase year to year go be enacted. I've never seen that. And certainly not when unemployment is anticipated to be 16% pretty soon. So I asked Orla to create something that is visually digestible to help us understand what would we need to do in order to present a budget that calls for a 0.5 mil rate increase, a 0.25 mil rate increase, and a 0 mil rate increase. And Orla just was a step ahead of me because she just highlighted if we were to enact a budget that calls for a 0.5 mil rate increase this year, that means we would need to reduce this budget in front of us by $1,461,752. And to get to 0.25 would be 1,638,750, and to get to 0 would be 1,815,748. Any thoughts from members of the Board of Finance on that?
Aaron, Rob Wurge. I like the methodology. I like the view on it because now that it's formulaic and you can drive other scenarios. One of the things I commented on opening night through this at the beginning of the marathon here was around getting to a point where we perhaps do some math like you did here in terms of absolute numbers and understand what the appropriate dollar increase would be. We can change the 0.25 and the 0.5 to a dollar increase, right? It's the 1.8 million minus the 1.6 or the 1.4. What I think would be worthwhile at some point is to stack that against what items in the budgets are fixed or basically pegged that have to go through. There's nothing, there's not a lot of value in talking about them or debating them because there's no control over whether they will or will not need to happen. They have to happen. And Orla started on some of that work. So, I mean, I think phase one here, we get to see the numbers, Aaron. I think it would be interesting to see of that dollar increase that we would be asking the taxpayers, how much of that is spent on items that are fixed that we have to have. And does that eat up all of that increase, some of it, or is there not enough? Do we need to go further just to cover what are have-tos that we have to enact on?
Thank you, Robin. It sounds like you're referencing that budget tool that you had introduced to the board at that first meeting as something that you would like to visit after we have the opportunity to go through the combined budget line by line and ask all our questions and understand the programs and understand what's being proposed. And then after we go through that narrative, sort of run the numbers through that budget tool that you had introduced to us.
Exactly, Aaron. And the reason and the value to it is we can all see real time let's, for the sake of numbers, if we pick the 0.5, the column P, that dollar value that we would be looking to reduce in this case, we'd be looking to find 1.4 million that would have to go away out of the 1.8. As we start plucking off and highlighting the ones that have to happen, and then we highlight other ones, we can begin to see that balance go to zero. So it's like a real-time tool that we can throttle. We can do scenarios. It's not that we're making a decision right there on the spot. We're just throttling different line items based on whether they're an absolute, and they have to be in, or whether they're things that we're considering. And then we can see real time kind of what's left. What are the dollars that are left or available as an option to get to that endpoint, or at least see some scenarios along the way in terms of getting to a reasonable endpoint.
Thank you. And I think, Orla, don't go there yet, but I think you may have worked that budget tool into your either your spreadsheet or your overhead, or it's something that you can bring up onto your desktop and share into Zoom. If you did, great. Don't go there yet. So Rob Wirge offered his thoughts on this page that we're looking at, and there's 6 members of the board. So if anyone else has any thoughts they want to offer at this particular juncture, I welcome that.
Jim Belvance, Board of Finance.
Go ahead, Jim.
I agree with Rob's approach on this, and I'll say I'm in favor of us checking that out and see if that works for us. It might be the easiest way for us to dissect what we've got to do here.
Ron DeRuda, Board of Finance, I think it's a great idea.
Rob Mann, Board of Finance, I agree also. I'm looking at the spreadsheet that I have here now. I think it's a very helpful budget tool.
Anyone else at this time? All right, Orla, not sure if that tool is something you're able to pull up onto Zoom. If it is, that'd be great. So it looks like looks to me, and anyone can correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like there's 5 columns that are pretty important here. And don't move anything, Orla, because I'm literally pointing with my pen towards my computer screen, so I don't want anything to move. But it looks like there's 2 columns that are not shaded, and they're on the left. And it's FY estimate. And if Amy, could you mute everyone, please? Except me, obviously, that wouldn't serve any purpose. But any Board of Finance member who wants to talk, they can just unmute themselves. So there's 2 columns on the left, and they're not colored, and it's called FY estimate versus proposed. So that's the amount of money that is estimated to have been spent by June 30th, by the time June 30th arrives. The amount of money that is estimated to have been spent. And then in the green columns is the amount FY budget versus proposed, meaning what's on the left side of that, the green highlighted columns, is the amount that was actually approved to be spent in that line item for the fiscal year that we're in right now versus proposed. So you can get a sense of what the proposed increase versus what was approved for that line item in the fiscal year that we're in. And if you move to the right of that, now you're back into an unshaded column, which it looks like it has an indication of whether it is fixed or not fixed or partly fixed. And this is just the top of the series of rows that goes through all these line items, and it appears to be the biggest dollar increase over the previous year in that respective line item. So transfers is 514. That appears to be the biggest dollar increase from the previous year. Fringe benefits 142. That's the second highest dollar increase, and so on and so on. So I imagine probably the place that we start, and I know this means that we're revisiting some line items that we've already discussed earlier, but this is an opportunity for us to see how these line items, what they look like when you hold up this tool to those line items. So I imagine our dialogue would naturally begin at the top, which is transfers. And I know we went through transfers. We know what they are, but this has an opportunity for us to see just how big of an increase they represent from a percentage standpoint. As presented.
Aaron, do you know what page transfers is on our little sheet?
Page 101 in the original booklet that we all received at the first budget presentation, page 101. And I've got lots of notes here because we moved stuff around. We talked about bringing in a couple of items or not bringing in a couple of items from the Board of Ed budget. A lot of notes on my page 101.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my page 101, Selectmen Proposed FY 2021, says 922,325.
Correct.
Okay. And I don't know if we made any changes to that number that would show up in this spreadsheet that came from other places. Orla, would you happen to know, I don't want to put you on the spot, but would you happen to know if that 514,000 proposed increase, have we messed with that at all? No, it looks like it's still 922,325, yes? Yep. Okay.
Perfect.
Aaron, Rob Warridge, Board of Finance. Can I offer a recommendation that we remove 250,000 out of the, well, I'm sorry, 250 minus 25. We move 225 out of the 514 delta, because that's the Turtle Lot building fund that's going to be in and out, kind of left pocket, right pocket. So that really zeroes itself out.
If we do that, then I'm okay with that. If we do that, then we would need to remove it from the income side of the budget too.
Well, I'm not suggesting on that tab that she was on, but on our tool, maybe as we think of the 514, if we know 250 of it is zeroed out, so it's really a 514 minus a 250,
yes,
realized delta.
Yes.
Yeah, so in other words, we're not going to be messing with the 250 at all because it's just in and out.
Agreed.
Yeah, and the discussions around the difference, the 264 versus the 514.
And I see where you're going with this. You're not making the 250 change to the budget. You're just putting a note there to say, look, 250 belongs to the Turtle Lot Trust. It comes in on the income side. It goes out on the expense side. It works that way every year. So that leaves us, Aaron McGarry, Board of Finance, with a true delta of 264.
Mm-hmm.
So Aaron, Rhonda Rooney, Board of Finance, normally you put out there, let's shoot for a certain mill rate. Right now, we're just kind of going with the flow here. Any thoughts on that as far as what we're shooting for, or we have no idea?
I don't want to speak, Aaron McGarry, Board of Finance. I know that there's 6 members of the board, so I never want to try and speak on behalf of anyone else, just myself. But the reason I asked Orla to put up those 3 columns, that each one was shaded a different color. One calls for 0.5, one calls for 0.25, and one calls for 0 in terms of mill rate increases. The reason I asked her to do that is because I know personally, if the Congressional Budget Office is projecting that we're going to have 16% unemployment in the very near future, I just cannot possibly, in good conscience, pass a budget that asks the citizens of this town to come up with more than a maximum of 0.5 mil more than what they're doing in the fiscal year we're in right now. That's just speaking on behalf of myself, not anyone else. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Aaron. This is Rhonda Rooney, Board of Finance, and with that same regard, I understand the school's in dire need. That's not something I don't understand. I definitely understand that. But that being said, with what is going on right now, a lot of these people that, I've talked to a lot of people in the past 6 to 8 weeks, and, some people are receiving unemployment and they're getting the extra $600 and they're making more money than they were making before. Of course, that's going to end in July. They aren't going to get the $600 as we know right now. And some of these people may get rehired on. Some of them may not even have jobs to go back to, even when their unemployment runs out. So I think we're looking at a hard year ahead of us, financially and economically. So, I mean, I'm not closed to putting an increase out there for the school or the town that's as low and as we can go, because simply what's going to happen is what I see is, if this were to happen and people, as I had mentioned about 6 weeks ago, from Forbes magazine, 78% of the people in the United States are living paycheck to paycheck. That means that they don't have any savings, and if they miss one paycheck, they're behind on their bills. So, you know, I hate to see a ton of foreclosures on houses and so on and so forth. And not only that, I see a line, you know, of people that are, you know, getting extra help with food even right now. So I think that we're looking at a very, very strange time right now for us. Nothing I've ever lived, you know, nothing I've ever lived through. And I mean, even looking at this budget here for the transfers, I mean, you know, last year the budget had $270,000 in roads. We definitely need road resurfacing, and I think I can probably speak for just about everybody in town. The roads that have been resurfaced are beautiful and they look great, but according to Rich, you know, you need $1.5 million just to get, you know, a few miles of road in, and it has to accumulate over the years. We can't just pop that into the budget. So there's an increase right there for road resurfacing of approximately, just for round numbers, you know, maybe 200,000. I mean, we could take that out, but I hate to take that out, you know, because we do need roads. The bridge work needs to be done. The salt shed is a major concern of mine. You know, especially hearing that this has been discussed now since 2008. It's 2020. That's 12 years that we haven't addressed this. So I think that, you know, to me, that something has to be in there. We have no plan, we have no options, you know, set forth. And I'm not trying to be hard on anybody by any means. I'm just saying that definitely, I think, needs to be a priority in this budget. It's really tough to make these type of decisions. I don't know, you know, being the way, you know, I don't know what would be better for us as a board to make these decisions as to where we're going to make these cuts. Because I can tell you right now, if I put out there to cut roads, somebody might, you know, that people aren't going to be happy, but, you know, vice versa. And then if we put out there to cut the school by, you know, $1 million, it's not really, you know, just give them 200. It's not, nobody's going to be happy with that. So the result is nobody's going to be happy with anything that we do that are on the Board of Selectmen or the Board of Ed. So it's a hard choice. So, I mean, if we put just a dollar figure out there as a total, is it somewhere like where the town can decide as a board where they're going to make those cuts in the most efficient areas by need? It seems like they would be better equipped to make that type of decision. Whereas same goes for the school. We don't make those decisions for the school. They get their, you know, their bottom line number, and then they make the decisions based on how they're going to run the schools.
Rob Mann, Board
Any
of
thoughts
Finance.
on doing it that way?
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Rob Mann, Board
Go
of
ahead, Rob
Finance.
Mann.
I absolutely agree. We seem to be making the decisions of where the cuts are going to be made, and some other people might be better versed on where their priorities are as far as operations go. We know we don't want to cut road funding. Another thing that I'm going to bring up again is this is the first year we planned on funding our fire departments, and people do this for free. They deserve to be at least safe with the equipment that they need. I'm going to say it right now. That's one of my priorities on the budget this year is to see that those fire departments are funded. Nobody's going to be happy with us. That's just how it is. We can't, we're not going to make everybody happy. If we make cuts on the town side, some of the people on the town side are going to be unhappy. We make cuts on the school side, people on the school side are going to be happy. There's no way to please everybody. The money's either going to come out of everybody's pockets at a time of dire need, and people are in line to get food. And I don't know what the future is going to bring. I have a very, very secure job, but even my job, come July, I might not have it. It's just how it goes. It's how the economy's headed and how things are going, and we're in uncharted territory. So I just feel we should. I'm not saying we should have a completely flat budget. I think we definitely are going to have to reduce some things. And is it going to hurt? Yes, it's gonna hurt. There's no doubt about it. We can't not hurt at this point. It has to. It's either gonna hurt the people in their homes and their families directly, which the school will do too, and I'm not gonna deny that. And the town services too. We have services that very few people use, and other services that more people use. It's just how town things go. I don't use the library much personally. My wife uses it a lot, so we do use that. The transfer station, it's probably the thing I use most in the town is getting rid of my trash. And that's a burden on taxpayers. My permit fees do not cover the transfer station. We have to buy, it comes out of the tax dollars for trucks, for the new cans, and salary. It's just not, it's not fully funded to fund itself with permit fees. If I had trash removal, it would definitely cost me more money. Those are just a few things in my thoughts, that's all. Thank you.
Rhonda Rooney, Board of Finance. Thank you, Rob. I also wanted to say, during this time of crisis, and if I go back to the data that was put out on the school budget, which, by the way, was an excellent presentation, and I did bring that up to Melinda as well as Kathleen. They did a great job on putting that together. But one of the things that I did notice in there was that a significant amount, and I think it's somewhere around the 50% level of the students or residents are in poverty in town. And my thoughts were, okay, well, are these people living in subsidized housing so that they're not going to be affected by the tax increase? But when I look around town, there's only one area that really has subsidized housing. So my guess is that most of these people are also homeowners. So one thing for people to keep into consideration, and I'm just going to say for the school, the kids that are going to that school also are living at home, and they need a place to live and eat and so on. So even if it is a $14 a week increase, that could mean a lot of money to people that are living week to week in this situation, especially if one person has lost a job. So again, my thoughts haven't changed. I do have one question for Orla, is if we were at the 0.5 increase in the mill rate, which means we have to reduce the budget by $1,461,000. How much money is left over out of what they put out? Is it the $369,440?
Yes, that is correct, Rhonda.
So if we were hypothetically to put out a 0.5 increase, which in these unsure times is still a lot to put out there without a referendum and without people being able to vote, and that's a big thing for me. I was elected by the people, not by the Board of Finance, not by the Board of Selectmen, and not by the Board of Ed. I was elected by the people in town, the 9,000 people, and maybe the 2,000 that come out to vote. So if we were to just increase the budget by $369, if that's something that, if we could all openly speak here as board members, what are we talking about here, so that we can kind of condense this down a little bit to get things moving. We could figure out, okay, well, we're gonna, allocate, $250 to the school and $100 to the town or something like that, and then let the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Ed decide what they're going to do with those increases, as opposed to us, which we're not knee deep in this. We're doing these budgets, but for those of you that are on the line, we're not in the treads of it day in and day out. We're not up at the school. We're not at the town hall. We're not, checking with all the department heads. We really are just getting this budget, and we kind of know what goes on from month to month, big picture, but that's really about it. So, we could sit here doing these budget meetings for another 2 months and wait and hope and see. Maybe, they'll decide that we can put a referendum out there, and then or we could, come to the, okay, let's put it out, with a two mil increase. And then in hopes that they'll put a referendum out there, where it'll be allowed to do that. And then we put it out there and let's say the people accept it, that would be great. But if they don't, we're back to the drawing table and now we're backpedaling again. So, I had mentioned to Amy last week, is there any chance that this would be going out to vote? And we just don't know. It's a total unknown scenario. So I'm suggesting that, we as a board decide, what are we willing to say yes to at the end of the day? I mean, in good conscience, I can't say yes, let's increase the budget more than the 0.5 mil based on what's going on. I don't care if people are thinking I'm hiding behind the COVID. It's not. That, this is a big deal that's going on right now. This isn't just something that we are overlooking. This is, I can't even believe it's going on. People aren't working. We're stuck in our houses. It's just ridiculousness, but yet it's going on. And as a result, the ripple effect financially is going to devastate, in my opinion, a lot of people. I think a lot of people aren't going to go back to work. A lot of restaurants might not be opening. Everybody's going to have to determine how they're going to adjust their business. Is it going to stay in business? Are we going to, consider, what are we going to do? But the wave has yet to come. This is the beginning. This is where people are saying, oh, great, I'm getting a little extra money with these, the PPP plan, the $1,200, the unemployment. I know people that haven't gotten an unemployment check. They haven't gotten their $1,200. They're living week to week. And I am a business owner. I put my PPP loan out there. I haven't received one dime. Not saying that I won't, but I haven't, and I have 2 employees. So, this is a big deal. So, I just want to put it out there. I'm sorry, that I'm offending people with what I'm saying here and so on and so forth, but I'm speaking from my heart of how I would want somebody representing me. And, when I get voted into office, I'm representing and trying to help 9,000 people and what's best for the majority of the people. I mean, there may be, a percentage of people in town that are a tax increase of 2 or 3 mils. It's not a big deal. But I think in our town, it is a big deal, especially now. So anyway, I don't know how you guys feel about maybe putting a number out there of what we're shooting for and then try to figure out how to get to that number. Should we try to figure it out? Should we let the Board of Ed or the Board of Selectmen try to figure it out once we tell them what we agree on as a number that we're going to put out there? How do you guys feel about that?
Rob Wirge, Board of Finance. Thank you, Rhonda. My viewpoint is that whatever number we put out there, whether this were to go to referendum or not, that should not influence our number decision. And we should move forward in either fashion with a number that we feel is reasonable and is appropriate. So I understand and I get what you're saying, Rhonda, about the voters and people in town having their say. And I hope we do open up and people can vote. That's the best path. But if they don't, I feel strongly that we need to prepare and put something out that as if it were going to be voted on. That's the only way that I believe we can do it. With regard to a number, I think a number as a starting point makes sense. But if we loop that number back in and start looking at the line items that Orla had, I think we need to be open to then adjust that number up or down and not peg it on the first pass. Because, the 369 represents 2.2%, I believe. And that's, that's not as Aaron said, it's not an unreasonable number. I mean, I think asking a 2 mil rate increase would be highly unreasonable, but that's not a large number at 2.2%, yet 369 feels like a pretty small number when we look at everything that's in front of us. The 1.8 million combined that's in front of us, along with all the things that are mandatory. I mean, I'm back on that because I'm concerned with what's out of our control. I too would want to see the fire stations better equipped. Absolutely, that's the right thing to do. And there's other right things to do around roads and other things that were brought up. But once we spend part or all of the 369 on things that our hands are tied on, what's left? We might need to loop back and say it's not going to be 0.5. Maybe it needs to be 0.7 mill rate increase, or a 1 mill rate increase, which would double that. It'd be 4.4%. Which now we're starting to get into numbers above, inflation, the overall, rate of inflation movements. And then lastly, I've heard a number of comments around the Board of Finance putting it out, the Board of Finance not cutting or cutting different line items. I think, the voices and the passion that are coming toward the Board of Finance, I'd like to remind people also, make sure that we talk to our neighbors in the same light, because it's our neighbors who are going to pass or not pass if we go to referendum. And if we go back to a 5-fold referendum like we did last year, I think Renee's numbers were $200,000. That's more than half of the 369 we're contemplating. We could burn up just on cycles going back and forth. So I'd encourage people to also talk to their neighbors about getting out and supporting the things that they're passionate about, that the 6 of us are passionate about. Because yes, we can make the recommendations, but in the end, we're only 6 votes, right? The town's still going to go out and vote to that. So, I just encourage everyone to be advocates for what we're all trying to do and support in a responsible way.
Ron DeRuny, Board of Finance. I agree with that, and I do think between the 3 boards, we are all out there trying to support the budget once we put it out there. I think that is probably the one thing that we are definitely all unified with, is talking to our neighbors and trying to get the budget passed. It just has an unfortunate history in this town as to not passing for whatever reason.
Totally agree, Rhonda. I know the passion is there across the board. So I think I was speaking more to, the next, to the community at large.
Oh, the community on the call. Okay, thank you.
This is Steve Herbert, Board of Finance. I'd rather take a look at the budget itself and we've gotten proposals from the school and from the town. So if we don't think the proposals are reasonable, we should address those. But just to do arbitrary cuts without some sort of thought, specific reasons as to why the cuts are appropriate, I don't think that's the appropriate thing to do. I think let's not pick a number of a mill rate increase we want. Let's pick a reasonable and appropriate budget and see what that tells us. I don't think anybody wants taxes to go up. We'd like to have them go down, but I don't think picking a rate increase and shooting a budget at that rate increase that you're striving for is the answer here. I think the answer is to develop a reasonable, appropriate budget and see what that tells us. I'd rather do that than to pick the budget, pick the budget number, and then squeeze it into the amount we want to change taxes by.
Any other member of the Board of Finance have thoughts at this point?
Rob Mann, Board of Finance. I just think that whatever we present in the end, that we should remember that if we don't go to vote, that we present the town a budget that they would vote yes on and that they would support as a town as a whole. Like Rhonda said, 9,000 people in town, what would pass? What would we be able to pass for a mill rate if we sent it out to the voters? We have to keep that in mind if we make a decision on the budget without a vote. We have to keep that in mind. That's all.
Anyone else at this juncture?
Rhonda Rooney, Board of Finance. I just wanted to say I appreciate all the board members' comments. It's nice to hear everything, so it's helpful in making decisions. And I think when we all add what we have to say, we're going to come to some reasonable decisions. And I do agree with, I would love to put a budget out there that's certainly going to support and grow everything. I don't think it would pass right now because of everything that's going on.
Any other thoughts at this juncture?
Aaron, Rob Wurch, I had one other thought. I guess I'm more of a proponent of deciding what we want to do, not what we're not going to do. Meaning, rather than looking at what's recommended or proposed and cutting it, let's look at what's in there and what needs to be done. What should we do? I know in essence it's the same thing, because by not adding them, you're cutting them. But we can't do everything, and I'd rather not see us try to do 2 or 3% of everything and not do anything well. I'd rather see us talk meaningfully about what we really want to do and what's most important, and to focus and do those things. And I get that other things are going to have to be passed by this year, and we'll reconsider those next year. But I'd be a proponent of deciding what we want to do versus eliminating things that are proposed today. And then lastly, the comments around, perhaps pegging a number and asking the Board of Selectmen and the school board to then decide where to spend those funds. If we were to entertain an option like that, I would recommend that. I would propose that if we did that they would come back with a recommendation, and then we could consider that and approve that recommendation versus just a lump sum that is then spent at the discretion of the other two boards. I think the other two boards can weigh in, make a recommendation, but I think I'd like to see the 6 of us review it prior to approving it.
Anyone else? I know before we had the conversation about, does someone want to put out a number and have us talk about doing our work around that number? We were on that page that compares the FY20 approved budget amount to the dollar amount increase and the percentage increase. That was the budget tool that Rob Wurch had proposed earlier in the budget season. And it sounds to me like if we move in a direction of finding out what's absolutely necessary, sort of sifting that out from everything else, I feel like this is probably the page to do that, unless I'm wrong. If somebody wants to, unless I stand corrected, I believe this is the page to do that work.
Rob Wurch, Board of Finance, I would agree with that. I think this is the page to do it, and we could start with a number and watch that number be reduced as we add things, or we could not start with a number, to Steve's point, and just put in the must-haves and see what number builds up, and then loop back. I mean, it's an iterative thing. We could do it either way. We could start with a number and decline from that number as we add things, or we could start with a blank 0 and build up as we add things. I mean, I'm open to either way. I think it gets us to the same spot, and then we can triangulate from there once we have that overall number.
I'm open to either way too. Aaron McGarry, Board of Finance.
Rob Mann, Board of Finance. So starting from a blank 0 would be what? Starting with last year's expenditure or budget number and building on that, on what the increase is, and then go through and pick out the ones that are fixed and add those, and then figure out what's ones we don't want to add that are the no's.
If I could jump in, Rob, I think the way it would work is, so the other page where Orla was showing the flat 0.25 and 0.5, those gave us discrete numbers. One of them I remember was the 369. Yeah, that's 369. So we could start there,
yep.
Or not, and go back to the other chart. Sorry, Orla, we're driving you crazy. Well, we could go back to the other chart, and let's say right where Orla is now. Orla, if you could go up to the 8. So right there, we could not put a number there, Rob. Just leave that. And then as we look at these line items, I'm just going to pick on fringe benefits because I think that's a yes. So if you put 142 Orla in V11, now once Orla has some time to do the formulas, up above in V8, the 142 would get added to that box.
Yep, because we reduced it. Yep.
It would increase it. It would take it from a blank box to 142. So Orla up in V8. V8 would be the sum of the column V. And if we move down and said everything in public works has to go in, if, I'm just suggesting this for illustrative purposes, I'll let Orla catch up. So if we added, let's say, just for illustration, Orla, the 21,000 in public works was an absolute yes. Or go down to the assessor. That's a yes. Go down to the assessor, 10,050. So if we agreed, yes, that's a must-have.
Yep, just add
Now
all
we're at
units.
152. So we could keep building on that column. Now there's negatives on the bottom that are going to help us. The good guys on the bottom. I call them the good guys. Orla didn't roll those in yet, but I don't think any of us are going to argue we should take that debt retirement because that's going to give us 141,000 of good guys.
Yep.
So that would be the concept. And if the first thing we did was peg all the yeses in column T, we know how much we're eating up of must-haves. And at least, I don't know what it's going to get us, Rob, in terms of the first pass, but at least we'll have something to anchor on. Then we can move from there.
It's slowly chipping away. Rob Mann, Board of Finance. Yep.
Right.
Aaron McGarry, Board of Finance. A question. I know that we will not be using all of the snow removal budget dollars that were in that line item this year, even with that little storm that we had, or was it last week or something? There'll still be some money left in there. Is that money not plugged into this page? Is that extra money, or is that already baked into this?
Now, Aaron, this
Aaron,
is.
could you say your question again, please?
That would be this year that'd be FY 20, Aaron. That wouldn't affect FY 21.
Right. Okay. So I just want to make sure when we look at the proposed mill rate increase, don't leave this page. This is a good page. I know it would mean we would have to go back to the first page to do it. But if there's, say, I'll just use a round number. If there's $100,000 left in that snow removal budget, is that something that hasn't been baked into the numbers yet?
Well, it hasn't been baked into the numbers, but these comparisons that we're currently looking at are based on proposal versus budget.
Yep,
So
got it.
the column beside is estimate versus proposal.
Yep.
So keep in mind, if we're looking at a comparison of budget last year to this year,
yep,
that's our variances. Now we do have another tab, and let me flip over here for a second. This is where we compare the estimate that we anticipate for fiscal 20 to what our proposal is. And I've done the same exercise here. They're all pretty much close to pretty much the same, but we can work off this report, or we can work off this one. It's either one, it's the same kind of difference.
Or Rob Werge, Board of Finance. If others feel differently, we can talk more. I think we're better off working off of the budget to the budget versus the estimate to the budget. In other words, the green columns that you're in now. The reason is that that's what the mill rate's pegged to. It's pegged off of the prior year budget. Now, as we discuss the line items, we might want to reflect on the estimate. So if something has been over or undershot for certain reasons, I think that's healthy to have that discussion. But that would provide context for what are the actuals. But from a budget to budget, I think that's going to ground us better. Otherwise, we're going to be our data point, our datum, our reference point changes once we get off into the estimate.
That's true. Okay,
Rob, this is Steve Herbert, Board of Finance. I tend to agree. I think the FY20 estimate is not the most perfect estimate we could possibly have. There's a lot of some guesstimates in there and a lot of assumptions. So probably going budget to budget's a better way. I'd rather do it against an actual, but I don't really think we have good data for that.
Fair enough.
Rhonda Rooney, Board of Finance. Aaron, you had mentioned about the extra money in contingency. So I think what you were getting at is just to, I'm sure you probably know this, but I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Orla, we could take money out of that contingency and maybe just, we would have to encumber the expense this year for maybe a capital, to buy something outright and get it done this year. Is that correct? And that would take it out of next year's budget. Like, for example, the 50 grand for the salt shed. I mean, obviously, if we were to take that money out of contingency and spend it this year on that 50 grand for the salt shed, they would have to actually utilize it this year in the budget, correct?
If it's available, yes.
What if it's not available to begin the project? What happens?
If it's
It
not
just
available
rolls back
in this
over.
year's budget, as it was, how the current year's budget, we had a proposal to, we had an anticipated reduction in the fund balance of, hang on a second, $33,000. So with the amount of contingency we have left and the current numbers that I'm estimating through the end of June, we're likely to break even. We may not.
Okay, so there's not going to be anything.
But
Okay.
we're likely to break even or pretty close to it. So that's what I mean when I say if it's available. Over the next month or so, as I start to see what revenue is coming in, we're going to get a better perspective. Rainey has given me some estimates through the end of June, but obviously we're on waters we're not used to. So that may change in the next 30 days. But if it is available, yes, you as a Board of Finance can vote to transfer that money.
So when will we have a closer idea?
Go ahead, Rhonda.
Wait, hold on. Well, we'll have Rhonda finish, and then Rob Mann, we'll go to you. Rhonda, finish up.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, when would we have a better idea of what might be left in contingency?
Okay, so Thursday, we're coming to the end of April. So I have estimates that what we received mid-April from Rainey over a week ago. I'm thinking by the middle of May, I think we'll have a better idea. But every week I'm monitoring the numbers. So I'll have an update for you on Thursday.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead, Rob Mann.
Yeah, Rob Mann, Board of Finance. No, I just wanted to chime in when you mentioned salt shed, Rhonda, that I believe the $50,000 this year was for engineering and possible site work. So it's something we certainly wouldn't want to remove if we want that project to go forward at all.
No, I know that.
Okay.
Rob Wurge, Board of Finance, by way of clarification, Orla, are you saying that we would have to, if there was money available after the middle of May, does it have to be spent by the end of June or just committed by the end of June?
We have to commit it by the end of June.
And if we don't go that route, do we also have an option to go the route that Steve Herbert was describing last week, which is to push it into retiring more debt, which would then in effect give us more dollars this year by adding to those negatives down below?
Yes.
So that's another lever we could pull. We could look to something to spend it on and commit it, or we could put it back in here as another driver to allow us to make more decisions on what we want to do. It could, in essence, drive the value up a little higher for this exercise here.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so we want to be looking for additional revenue or money that we can use from this budget. Also, also decrease expenses. Those are the two ways to bring it down.
Aaron McGarry, Board of Finance. So forgive me if the point that I'm about to make is redundant to the last few minutes, but I believe there's a third option, which is if money is not spent in fiscal year 20, then it goes back. If we know that it's not going to be spent, then we know we can rely on it as going back into the general fund, basically becoming part of surplus and thus available to be plugged into the FY21 budget.
That is correct.
Thank you, Aaron.
I'm looking at the clock. I know it's close to, go ahead, Rob Widge.
Yeah, I think it's a 3-minute task if you want to do this before we
Yeah,
close
by all
up.
means,
I was
Jack,
just
go
gonna,
ahead.
I was gonna see if maybe Orla could walk us through some of the changes. She's been working behind the scenes here. Maybe worth a quick recap if we can in the couple minutes we have. Just to ground us as we leave here, and then we can start off again in the next meeting.
Terrific.
Okay, so starting at the very top, the highest increase we have is in transfers. Now, I was kind of playing with that number. Out of that 514,000, 51 is reval. That's a fixed cost, and the 250,000 in Turtle Lot Trust. So that brings us up to 301. We can still take, we can take that 51 and we can add our 250, and we can treat of that 514 at the moment as 301,000 fixed. But that would be at this time taking none of the other items that were considered as part of CapEx expenses. On the health insurance, we're bringing over the 142. Next line down, I've just brought over the committed amount of 7,000, which is a contractual increase for some of the services through 911. We do have some minimum wage requirements increases, so that approximately $3,000 on the library admin side. We are looking to transition to a new assessor, so I think we're going to need that 10. On the small amount, it's a per capita rate coming out of public health, and recreation is the same issue with regards to minimum wage. The only other one I put in there was our municipal insurance. It's a small dollar amount, but it does represent a possible 8% increase. And there's a couple of other ones in there. Celebrations is just a correction from last year, and probate is based on per capita also. Just scrolling down a bit, we can offset all of our negatives, which are our, Rob, you had a perfect expression for these lines. What was it? Our good guys, right?
Yeah.
These are our good guys. So this brings us to a fixed increase of 233,799.
Orla, Rob Wirge, sorry for the questions at 9 o'clock. Shouldn't the 250 come out of the Turtle Lot Trust, because that's in the revenue line? It wasn't in the revenue line last year. It's in the revenue line this year. So it's really not a additional tax burden, right? That's a zero.
It's not an additional tax burden, that is correct. But this is also a capital.
Should that be? Go ahead, sorry.
Either way, I can take it out at this line here and we'll just treat it as a zero, but it will go into the line item at some stage, and it is a wash.
Right, but since it's a wash, we're taking up 250, that's a wash. So theoretically, I mean, we can pick it up next week. I think we're getting past the time, but I'd like to make sure we're not double counting that.
That's fine. I'm just taking a note to check it afterwards.
This is Steve, Board of Finance. I think it's 225, just to be technical about it, because I think we had 25
right, Steve.
in your budget.
Oh, is it 220? Yeah. 225 for Turtle Lot? I got to double check.
The difference is 225, I think.
Difference. I think you're right, Steve.
Sorry, Steve, when you refer to 225, what are you referring to?
We're looking at the difference between one year and the next. Since we had 25 in there for Turtle Lot Fund in FY20, the 250 is actually a 225 increase, not a 250 increase. Because looking
at
that's
right. Oh yeah, you're right, Steve. Yep. I'm sorry.
And a similar question, I think, on the assessment cost. It's not the total amount; it's the delta that we're looking for.
On the reval?
Yes, on the assessment cost, or whatever you call it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's 14. No, it's 21. Let me just access that page.
Again, we're only looking for the difference, not the total amount.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, 20,000.
20.
Big difference.
Some more good guys, Steve. Nice. I feel like a bad guy now. Aaron, it took us past 9 o'clock, so breaking the most important
Not a
rule.
problem.
This is Steve again. Before we do adjourn, I don't know if you had a chance to look at the interest rate we were paying on some of those vehicles or not. We're at the end of today's session anyway, but I just wanted to ask you if you got a chance to look at that.
Yes, I did, and it's in that book that I'll get for you for tomorrow. Let me just bring up the sheet so I can show you what I mean.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, it's there.
Great. Thanks, Ola.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm always happy to go a few minutes extra if it means finding some good guys. So well done, everyone. Thank you for that. But yes, it is 9:03 p.m. So I want to try and hold to my promise. If there's a motion to adjourn, I'll be happy to entertain that at this time.
So moved. Rob Mann.
That sounded like Rob Mann with the motion. Who's got the second?
Second.
So Rob Mann's got the motion and Jim Bellavance has the second. All in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? This carries 6-0, and I see in the chat button it says from Sean Brissett, Aaron, when are you meeting again? Let's see. So today is Monday. I believe we're meeting this Thursday. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Amy St. confirms yes, Thursday. All right. It's 9:03 and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Okay.